In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the issues that developed between Great Britain and the colonies right after the French and Indian War. One of the first issues developed as the colonists were going west over the Appalachian Mountains into the Ohio River Valley. There they came into greater contact with Native Americans, and fighting ensued between the two groups. The king's solution to this problem is much like what a parent would do with two children that are fighting. Basically, he divided both groups, separated both groups. As you can see here on this map, he created the Proclamation of 1763, which is a line that basically runs down the ridge of the Appalachian Mountains. And he told the colonists that they had to stay east of that line, where in the red shaded area where the original 13 colonies were. He said that the Native Americans needed to be west of the Proclamation line, west of the Appalachian Mountains. Therefore, separating the two groups would end the fighting between the two groups. The colonists were not going to be happy with this solution at all, because a big reason that the French and Indian War was fought was so that the colonists would be able to have access to the land west of the Appalachian Mountain, specifically the very fertile Ohio River Valley. So this proclamation denied the colonists access to this land, and as a result they were rather angry about it. Another issue that developed was the fact that Britain spent heavily in the during the French and Indian War, and as a result ended up in debt after the war. Britain decided, basically, since the colonists derived the majority of the benefit from the French and Indian War, all of the land that New France had, that the French had abandoned, what was New France, at least the land east of the Mississippi River, became part of the British colonies. And as such, the British felt that the colonists should share in the debts of the war and helping to pay the debts of the war. This chart shows that over a period of time, Parliament levied several small taxes on the colonists to help raise money to pay for those debts. You see the Sugar Act in 1764 is circled, the Stamp Act, which was a tax, the requirement of a stamp which had to be paid for on legal documents and such. So these were a series of small taxes. The Townshend Acts were a variety of small taxes on lead, paper, glass, and tea. And as we see, as we get into 1774, what we're going to discuss in more detail in a coming lesson in this unit is the fact that the colonists were not particularly happy paying these taxes. And again, we'll look at the details of that going forward. But Britain is going to, with the Intolerable Acts, come down with much more of an iron fist, let's say, to try and stop the colonial reaction to the British taxes. But that's coming a little bit later on. So then, just to sum up these two quick things, the Proclamation of 1763 was meant to solve the problem of fighting between the colonists and the Native Americans. And do keep in mind, this comes right on the heels of the end of the French and Indian War, which was from 1756 to 1763. So do the taxes that Parliament began to levy on the colonists to help pay for the debts from the war itself. Again, lessons going forward, we're going to look at the reaction of the colonists and how this all ultimately leads to the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution.